Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Naaman with the DC Camp Branch Great Millstone, back for another video. But first and foremost, call hello Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Kahakwadash. And of course, once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, who deserve double honors. All right. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, pushing the truth across four corners of the video. Not only that, but we issue out numerous videos, all right, to further spread the truth out there. All right, so here's a copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. A nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, because this is what I'm doing here. I'm not profiting in any way. All right, so as it appears, more trouble in paradise, if you believe that. But anyway, I'm sure you've heard by now what's going on out in California and soon to be just about everywhere else. It says judge blocks Trump administration from deploying National Guard to Los Angeles because Trump usurped the authority of the governor. All right, yes, he is the commander-in-chief of the military, but there's steps even he has to take. All right, and there have been instances in history where this has happened. Yes, in fact, let me go to another article here. One was my old high school. All right, and that was hold on here. All right, so as it goes, yeah, my old high school. So I'll get to that. But anyway, it says judge blocks Trump administration from deploying National Guard to L.A. A federal judge on Thursday blocked the Trump administration from deploying members of the California National Guard in Los Angeles and ordered President Trump to return control to Governor Gavin Newsom. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer found that California officials are likely to succeed in their challenge to the president's decision to federalize members of the National Guard in response to protests in Los Angeles. So you got to understand, Trump is still on his little revenge mission here. All right, it says, and granted their request to block his use of the forces to assist immigration agents during raids. All right, some would agree with what he's doing because these Democrats, and let's be clear, I'm with neither one. All right, fuck all this shit. It's all wicked. All right, I'm not gonna call any names or anything, but at this point, you got to realize you're being played by both. You know, Jake, come on now. And Jake still, for the most part, haven't woken up to what's going on. How you're being taken advantage of by both of them. You're being played, both ends against the middle there. So his actions were illegal, both exceeding the scope of his statutory authority and violating the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Breyer wrote of Mr. Trump in a 36-page decision. He must therefore return control of the California National Guard to the governor of the state of California forthwith. So, and this is also going into more of the Egyptian against the Egyptian, because if you can't at this point see that a civil war is right on the horizon, I don't know what to say. Let's get that real quick. Oh man, Isaiah 19:2. It says, and I will set, this is the Most High, I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother. Can't you see how divided America is? All right. It said, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. All right. And it goes, further than America. This is Edom in general is being divided against itself. America and those people over there in the land of Israel, everybody, his fellow Edomites, they can't stand either one. Wow. And we just learned 3.5 hours, I guess it's been, that those Israelis launched a preemptive strike against Iran. How about that? We all knew it was coming. All right. So what's going to happen now? Because you know that Russia especially, and China too, they're backing, and some other nations, Iran. So they say they took out people that were working on that nuclear program, and they hit some facilities. All right. So we'll see what's going to come of that. But back to this. So let's take a quick look at. Dang it, I didn't mean to go there. But since maybe that's maybe that's a spirit. But here's this region over here. All right, here's little Israel here. You know, the Gaza Strip and all that. And then you get over here. Here's Iraq, and here's Iran. So they hit. All right, here's Tehran here. All right, so one thing you have to understand why they wanted Syria. This makes a good staging ground for an attack. All right, in Tehran, but that's another video. But anyway, I don't know. Hey, that's the spirit did that because I had no intention of, just as a visual aid there regarding that. But back to here. Let's get some instances where the National Guard had been federalized. All right, let's see. 1792 to 1878, National Guard was first federalized in 1792 when George Washington did it. All right, because of state militia units to suppress the Whiskey Rebellion. All right, let's see. Spanish-American War, which for the longest time Americans were paying. What was the tax that on your phone bill that was related to that? Yeah, it might still be. I don't know. And that was a false flag event in and of itself. World War I, World War II, Cold War era, 1950s to include again my old high school. I don't know why it's not listed here. All right, you got the Cuban Missile Crisis, but what happened 5 years before that, Little Rock Central. All right, post-Cold War, the 90s to the present, Gulf War, War on Terror. All right. Hurricane Katrina, of course, I think we all remember that. And the, the pandemic. All right. So that's enough there. Let's go back here. Like I said, it's going to be a short video. So let's see. Continuing on. The judge said Mr. Trump circumvented Newsom when he called the California National Guard into federal service and therefore did not follow the procedural requirement laid out by Congress. You wonder why he's been issuing so many executive orders, because he can, and he doesn't have to go through, I guess, what he considers the bullshit. All right. He put his decision on hold until noon Friday. So, hey, that's like 12 hours from now. It says the Justice Department swiftly notified the court it is appealing the order, of course. The National Guard will come back under my authority by noon tomorrow, Newsom told reporters in a news briefing in San Francisco Thursday evening. The National Guard will be redeployed to what they were doing before Donald Trump commandeered them. We're gratified, Newsom said. Today is a big day for the Constitution of the United States, and that's another thing. We were talking about Egyptian against Egyptian, and it's going to be just about this. Those that uphold the Constitution and those that want to go around it or do away with it, all right, in order for them to do what they're trying to do, all right? And I'm talking about the elites pulling this place down. All right, that's got to go. That and the Bible. It says, and I hope it's the beginning of a new day in this country where we push back against overreach. We push, always campaigning, right? We push back against these authoritarian tendencies of a president that has pushed the boundaries, pushed the limit, but no longer can push this state around any longer. Breyer issued his decision hours after holding a hearing in San Francisco, which marked the first test of Mr. Trump's decision to place more than 4,000 members of the California National Guard under federal control and send 700 active duty Marines to Los Angeles to protect immigration and customs enforcement agents as they conduct immigration arrests. Okay, where is LAPD in all this? Anyway, it says the Trump administration's immigration. I imagine that they're under orders from the mayor there, Karen Bass, to stand down. I think she's married to Northern Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of people are fed up too of the Democrats because of actions, or they perceive as actions such as this. All right, they're bringing just opening the borders, and largely responsible for the situation that we're in now, not enforcing the laws that were even already on the books. All right, this is not, listen, every country in the world has laws concerning immigration, and they enforce them. So you got to wonder, what the hell is this? And we know this in part, both parties play this shit, this game with the people, having to do with cheap labor, all right? And with the Democrats, it's largely their intent to fuck with Southern Kingdom, Jake. Play Northern Kingdom against Southern Kingdom, all right? Anyway, continuing on, it says, the Trump administration immigration crackdown sparked protests in California's largest city, which the president said in a June 7 memorandum constitutes a formal rebellion against the U.S. that allowed him to call up the National Guard under Title 10. Since the president deployed the National Guard in Los Angeles, protests have popped up in a number of other cities, remember what I said, including Austin, Texas, Boston, and New York City. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass imposed an 8 p.m. curfew on Tuesday and Wednesday. The Los Angeles Police Department said there have been at least 400 arrests since Saturday stemming from protests and other criminal activity in the downtown area. Let me tell you, L.A., they are deep, Northern Kingdom, all right? It says Breyer's order only covers National Guard members, and he had indicated during the hearing that concerns about the potential actions of the Marines who have been sent to Los Angeles are so far speculative. During the proceedings, Breyer at times appeared uncomfortable with the assertion from Justice Department lawyer Brett Shumate that courts cannot review whether Mr. Trump's decision to call in the National Guard complies with Title 10. It's not that a leader can simply say something and it becomes it, he said. How is that any different than what a monarchist does? Good question, right? The judge continued, this country was founded in response to a monarchy, and the Constitution is a document of limitations and an enunciation of rights. Title 10 lays out 3 circumstances under which the National Guard can be called into federal service. When the U.S. is invaded or in danger of invasion by a foreign nation, when there is, and I bet that's the one he's trying to Trump and his administration, his lawyers are trying to, anyway, it says when there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the U.S., that could be also another one, or when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws. So it's potential there for all 3. All right. It says the measure then states the president may call into federal service members and units of the National Guard of any state in such numbers as he considers necessary to repel the invasion. Heck, because those 3 I just read, I mean, it's left up to interpretation, right? Anyway, it says suppress the rebellion or execute those laws. All right. Breyer indicated that the structure of the law undercuts the Justice Department's assertion that Title 10 gives the president complete discretion and allows him to bypass Newsom, who is the commander-in-chief of the states National Guard. All right, and of course everybody knows that. All right, my point is if it were read the way the government has urged me to read it, it would have been rewritten entirely different, he says. Like I said, it's left up to interpretation, right? Shoemate, meanwhile, argued that there is one commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the president, and when he makes a decision, states are subservient to it. Uh-oh. He described Newsom as a conduit who cannot countermand the president's orders. In his decision, Breyer wrote that the protests in Los Angeles fall far short of a rebellion, as Mr. Trump claimed in his memorandum invoking Title X. The administration, Breyer said, did not identify a violent, armed, organized, open, and avowed uprising against the government as a whole. Now, you see how when those, and you just have to say it like this, idiots, let's just be honest. If you're saying that you fled your country because of whatever oppression, all right, threat to your life, that whatever, but you're in the streets of the country that you're seeking asylum in, waving the nation's flag that you're running from, that in itself could be interpreted just as they're trying to see here. Wow. See, this devil is very, very clever. And he will use whatever he can against you. And they're giving them all the excuse he needed. You see? All right. He says the definition of rebellion is unmet. All right. Moreover, the court is troubled by the implication inherent in defendant's argument that protest against the federal government, a core civil liberty protected by the First Amendment, can justify a finding of rebellion. Oh, man. In his remarks Thursday, Newsom said clearly there's no invasion, there's no rebellion. It's absurd. Mr. Trump has argued that the military had to be sent into Los Angeles to protect ICE and other federal employees performing their duties, as well as government property. All right. And it can be said, yes, Trump is and his cohorts are inflating this situation for, whatever purpose, all right, that they have in mind. He says Newsom, a Democrat who claimed the presence of the military in city streets threatened to destabilize the community and lead to an escalation. All right. And he's right. All right. Fanning the flames. Like I said, they've got plans, and this might be an excuse for him also to institute the Insurrection Act and, bring forth martial law. All right. These unlawful deployments have already proven to be a deeply inflammatory and unnecessary provocation, anathema to our laws limiting the use of federal forces for law enforcement. That's the commie positatis. All right. Let's see if I can get that real quick. That was established long ago. Let's see. Whoops. What did I put that there for? There we go. I put an I instead of an E. Here it is. The Posse Comitatus Act. It says it's federal law. All right. Signed on June 18, 1878 by President Rutherford B. Hayes, that limits the powers of the federal government and the use of federal military personnel to enforce domestic policies within the United States. It says Congress passed the act as an amendment to an Army appropriation bill following the end of Reconstruction. And you see, it had to do with Jake, right? Southern Kingdom, and updated in 1956, was under Eisenhower, 81 under Reagan, and 2021 under Biden. How about that? I keep telling you, these motherfuckers are in on it. All of them. And our people keep, it's them Republicans. No, it's all of them. It's both of them. All right, God dang it. Real sensitive here. Hold on. Okay, here we go. It says the act originally applied only to the United States Army, but a subsequent amendment in 1956 under Eisenhower expanded its scope to the United States Air Force. All right, in 2021, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022 further expanded the scope of the act to cover the United States Navy, Marine Corps, and Space Force. Why? Interesting. The act, God dang it, this thing is sensitive. So dang it. Let's see. Well, damn it. All right, the act does not prevent the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard under state authority from acting in a... So this is what Trump and them were doing. See? Let me read that again. The act does not prevent the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard under state authority from acting in a law enforcement capacity. So, Governor Newsom can do it. From acting in a law enforcement capacity within its home state or in an adjacent state if invited by that state's governor. The United States Coast Guard under the... God dang it. The United States Coast Guard under the Department of Homeland Security is not covered by the act either, primarily because although it is an armed service, it also has a maritime law enforcement mission. So there you go. The title of the act comes from the legal concept of posse comitatus, the authority under which a county sheriff or another law officer can conscript any able-bodied person to assist in keeping the peace. You've seen those old westerns, because a sheriff, unlike the police chief, all right, the sheriff is an elected official, and thereby he's the only law enforcement mentioned in the Constitution. All right, he is an elected official. All right, man, these slick motherfuckers, boy. That's why it's good to read, search these things out. All right, so here we go. In a filing submitted to the court, the Trump administration called Newsom's request for relief a crass political stunt endangering American lives. There is no rioter's veto to enforcement of federal law, and the president has every right under the Constitution and by statute to call forth the National Guard and Marines to quell lawless violence directed against enforcement of federal law. All right, so this is going to be interesting. I'll post the rest of this for you to read. But this is largely a matter of interpreting what has already been written. And, oh man, the Egyptians against the Egyptians. This place is done. This place is falling apart and falling apart fast. This is beautiful. All right, Mark 3rd chapter. It's 24 on down. All right, it's... wow. Like I said, it's going to be a short video, so just it's a lot going on, and it's happening fast. Things are speeding up. All right, so this is not a time to be, for those of you that are on the fence, no. All right, in fact, I'll end with that. Let's go to the Apocrypha. Let's go to Sirach, 5th chapter. Been trying to tell you. All right. I started 4. Point is in 7. Say not, I have sinned, and what harm hath happened unto me. For the Most High is long suffering. He will in no wise let thee go. Concerning propitiation, be not without fear to add sin unto sin. And say not, his mercy is great. He will be pacified for the multitude of my sin. For mercy and wrath come from him, and his indignation resteth upon sinners. Here's the point. Make no tarrying to turn to the Most High, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Most High come forth, and in thy security, because a lot of our people are secure, and what they think they done made it. You know, they got that home and the white picket fence and 2.5 kids and all that shit. You know, the American dream. They think they've achieved, and they're content. And it's saying here, in your content, in your security, thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. All right, so with that, hey, until the next video, hey, shalom. You got to be always circumspect out here, especially now. All right, shalom.